Hey everyone, how are you doing? Are you hanging out at home, not going out? That's kind of what I'm doing. Today was my first day of work from home, so here I am, still in the house. But you know, I figured I'd do a quick video talking about the books that I got recently. But first, I'm gonna have a little bit of Guinness, because it's the day after St. Patrick's Day, so I have a bunch of Guinness here. Alright, so the first book I got recently, which I'm really excited about, I actually got at my local YMCA, because they have a kind of book cart there where you donate $1 for a hardback or $1 for 2 paperbacks, and it funds, I guess, like children's summer camp or something. And then every once in a while you kind of come across something decent. It's mostly garbage, but every once in a while you do, and that's what I did this month. I came across 7 Pillars of Wisdom by T.E. Lawrence. Now, this is actually a first public edition. This is from 1935. For those of you who aren't that familiar with him, T.E. Lawrence is Lawrence of Arabia, like the film, with Peter O'Toole. And basically, the book chronicles his time during World War I, fighting in Arabia against, I guess it's the Ottoman Turks, alongside a sort of confederation of Arabian nations. Now, I haven't read this book yet, but I'm somewhat familiar. I'm probably about as familiar as the average person is with T.E. Lawrence, and so I'm really excited about this. I had actually wanted to read it before I even found this copy. This first public edition is 1935, and the first, well, he privately printed it in 1926. Now, I think kind of one of the interesting stories about this book is that he actually wrote a whole manuscript for it that was destroyed, and then he wrote it again, and so he had this second manuscript published privately for his friends and family, and then after he died in a motorcycle accident, it was published. So it's published by Doubleday. I don't know if I'll read... I'm tempted to read it, but I also don't want to, you know, destroy an old edition of the book, so I may just go to the library and get a newer copy, or I might just kind of read it carefully at home. I like to read a lot on public transit, so I don't really want this living in my backpack for a month or whatever, because it's like 700 or 800 pages. But anyways, really excited about that. Got that for $1. Now, the other book that I picked up recently, I had actually already read, because I had gotten it from a library last year and I read it, but I bought another copy of it to take with me on a trip. Now, this book is called Hiking with Nietzsche. It's by Kaag, who is a philosophy professor at the University of Massachusetts in Lowell. I heard about this book on a podcast last year, and so I figured I'd check it out because I like Friedrich Nietzsche, and I actually really like this book. So basically, this book is a non-fiction book about how the author went to Switzerland and the little village in Switzerland where Nietzsche summered for most of his summers in the 1880s. And it's a little place called Sils-Maria. It's near St. Moritz, which is a larger kind of popular ski town, but Nietzsche went there in the summers. And so the author, the professor, went to Switzerland originally when he was 19 and was a bit of a hiking enthusiast, as Nietzsche was also very, I don't know if I would call it, he wasn't really into mountaineering, but he was into walking and a little kind of more casual hiking, it sounds like, from what I'm familiar with him. The second part of the story is the author goes back about 20 years later. Now he's in his mid to late 30s, so this book was published a couple years ago, and he goes with his wife and his child and goes back and visits not only the boarding house where Nietzsche lived, which is now a museum, but also still takes boarders, but he also goes and stays at a nearby hotel that's famous for providing basically short-term housing for people like Hermann Hesse, people like Theodore Adorno, and people of that nature. So I had a really good time reading this. I read it last year as a library copy, and then bought this because I actually planned to go on a trip to Switzerland to go to the locations that are mentioned in this book, which I did a couple of weeks ago and returned recently. So I'm going to be doing a larger and longer video on that, where I actually talk about the book more in depth, and I sort of share some of my footage of going to Nietzsche House in Sils-Maria and a few other places in Switzerland. Fortunately, got back before there was too much of a problem getting back into the country. So that I'm fortunate for that, because it sounds like right now people are having a lot of issues getting back in. Now, finally, I figured I'd just throw this in here. The thing I'm actually reading right now is I'm doing more reading into more amateur style writing for a literary journal that is actually published by my former community college, which is nearby here. And I've been reading this. It's the Santa Monica Review. So I have read a couple of their editions before. It's admirable that the college has put out a literary sort of collection of short stories and some nonfiction this is the 30th anniversary edition, so this was published about a year and a half ago. And I've been reading it. A lot of the quality of stories is not super great. There was one really good one in here. There was another one by, I think it must be an older woman, where it's about, LSD and all of that. And to me, there's nothing more insufferable than listening to, baby boomers talk about LSD trips and music and that kind of thing. So I'm kind of reading through that, and well, that's pretty much it. Hang in there and keep reading, since I hope you guys are all kind of chilling out right now instead of out there licking doorknobs and railings and things. See you around.